What's up, everybody? OGP back with you from the movie theater. I'm about to go see a movie that I can't remember the name. Probably because I hadn't heard nothing about this movie until it came out. At least I don't think I have. But I'm hearing good things about it. So I'm going to go in here, figure out what movie I'm about to see, and I'll let you know. Well, there it is. In a Violent Nature. I'm going to go see it at 9:20 p.m. in a Violent Nature. Hopefully in a good theater. In to the theater to watch In a Violent Nature we go. First couple minutes of this video will be spoiler free, then I will dive head on into the spoilers. So I will give you plenty of warning. I'll let you know when spoilers are coming, so check it out. Let's talk about this here movie.
2 hours later.
What in the fuck was that? Wow. Wow. There were a couple good kills. I understand they were trying to do something unique. But what the fuck was that? Don't spend your money on this movie. Man, this is bad. We'll get out to the car. I'll tell you more about it. I'm kind of blown away right now. Kind of at a loss for words. I don't know what that was. Should have saw something else. Inside Out, Quiet Place. Hopefully that's better. Joker, definitely looking forward to that. Man, that looks good too. In a boring nature is what they should have called this. There were a couple good kills. Just a couple. Most of the violence kind of happened off camera, and then you kind of saw the aftermath of like the wounds, the injuries. Just a couple. There was a really good one, to give him credit, where a rock smashes a guy's head. Pretty good. But man, most of it, ugh. Then the end. It was like a 15-minute car ride with a conversation, and you're thinking, ooh, something's gonna happen in this conversation. Waiting for like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We're waiting for somebody to pop up in the back of the pickup truck that they're driving. Nope. We stop. We're waiting for a killer to show up on the side of the road. Nope. Okay, I'm not gonna spoil it yet. So I mean, it sucks. I'm trying to save you from wasting your money on this. So before I sit down and give you more detailed thoughts on it, let me just tell you, this movie right here, like, ooh, maybe 4? Am I gonna get about a 4 out of 10? It would be like, it's like a D. I'll probably give it a 4 out of 10. A 4 out of 10 for effort, for creativity, and a couple good kills. But the vast majority of this movie was boring. They went for something unique and special, which we'll talk about, but 4 out of 10, that's my thoughts. If you don't want to be spoiled, turn the video off here. Go watch the movie and then come back and watch the rest of it. But anyways, if you would hit the thumbs up button before you go, though, please. But let's get in the car and we'll talk about this movie a little bit more. Warning, spoiler alert is coming. I get what they were trying to do. They were trying to go for an 70s, 80s campy vibe, and they were trying to do it from the killer's perspective. So they were trying to do something unique with that style of film. I thought at first this might be interesting. No music, no ominous sounds to preempt the jump scares or whatever. It was just the perspective of the killer, kind of following the killer through the woods. In a sense, that was kind of cool. There was elements of that I kind of liked. But I think it was shot in a weird, goofy aspect ratio, like a 1.3 to 1. It was almost like a square. And I felt like they were going for that old school, like if you watch the original television version of Friday 13th or whatever, it's going to be in that weird aspect ratio because it was on a VHS. So I think they were going for like that VHS aspect ratio. They didn't need to do that. There are other ways to make the film feel like an old 80s campy movie without doing something stupid like that. I was not a fan of that at all. The killer, at first, coming up out of the ground, you don't get anybody in a shot at first. You hear voices, people talking and stuff, and then they leave, and then the killer is coming up out of the ground because they stole this locket that belonged to the killer's mom, and it was apparently the only thing keeping the killer in this place. Reading the description of the movie, I expected that scenario to play out a little bit longer, to be a little more meat on the bones. But no, it was like the first 2 minutes of movie. Here's the locket. There's the people. There, they take it away, and boom, here comes the killer. They could have built up the suspense with that a little bit more, and it might have pulled the audience in a little bit more to really caring about the situation, or deciding, are we rooting for the killer, or are we rooting for these people? And I wasn't rooting for anybody the entire time. The campy people were kind of annoying, and we didn't really even figure out who the final girl was. Like, she was kind of like, there was no main victim. It was just like killing one at a time. So the main person, the main story revolved around the killer, and that's fine. But you've got to give us something or someone to root for. And I didn't care if the killer won. I didn't care if the campers won. I just didn't. Nothing pulled me into that. But back to the point where, when we first see the killer, it's obviously done with, whether they did it in the forest or whether they did it on a soundstage or something. They covered the ground. A person was down in a hole with a pipe, shaking it to make it look like, and then they were climbing out. But it was like, you heard leaves ruffling, and then they were coming out. It wasn't like, okay, were they digging themselves out of dirt? But it was like a tarp with leaves on it. It was just fucking weird. They did a bad job with that. The effects throughout the film, there were some decent effects. There were some very hokey ones, but there were some decent effects. But the problem was, this movie's called In a Violent Nature. I wanted to see more violence. I wanted to see the axe go into people. I wanted to see this wire thing that cut the guy's head off, made him look like Terrence and Phillip from Canada, in South Park, with their bouncing heads or whatever, the baby or whatever. When his head came off, I wanted to see, the actual head come off, not the after effect of it. So I think they were obviously limited with their effects budget somewhat, because they didn't have the ability to show all of the impacts, all of the stabbings, or the initial contact of the weapon. They kind of showed you a lot of the aftermath. One of the killings, like I mentioned, or rock smashing a head, was great. It was great because blood splatters, head goes everywhere. That was good. There's another one where the initial stabbing was off kind of camera, was shot from behind, but then when he takes this girl's head and yanks it through her body with this chain, that was pretty gross and cool. I liked that, but it was just the initiating of that kill, the very beginning of that kill, that was like, underwhelming. But they followed it up with some nice, gross head being brought down and pulled through the body, which was kind of cool. So it redeemed it a little bit. And then you got this guy at the end who they're thinking they need to set up the killer to put him in a trap, and he needed to distract the killer so the girl could go do it. So he runs up right behind the killer, and starts yelling, hey, whatever he says. And the killer turns around and the guy's right there. So the killer just goes like, with the axe, chops him in the head. And it's like, you dumb fuck. You were right there. Like, you couldn't have thrown a rock. You couldn't have yelled at him from far away. No, you came up right behind him so you could get killed. So the setup for that kill and the setup for a couple other kills were just dumb because the people just stood there and got killed. Now, after the guy that came and ran up behind Johnny, our kill, because this is supposed to be like a lot like a Jason, where he had the mind of a child, because there's a car and he plays with the car and he looks a lot like Jason Voorhees. I definitely think these people wanted to make a Friday the 13th, but from Jason's perspective is what they wanted to do. The killer, Johnny, after he stabs this guy in the head, hits this guy in the head with the axe, then he proceeds to like punch this guy and punch him and punch him and punch him and punch him. And it got to the point where it was kind of funny because even the chick started running away now. And you hear, he must have punched the guy 100 times. So that was kind of funny how like long that went on. But the way the guy died was stupid because he was right there. And also the girl who got her head pulled through her body was she went out to do yoga. And why she decided to go to do yoga in the middle of what looked like a parking lot or something, like a dirt parking lot. Why she chose there, I don't know. She could have done yoga with her lesbian friend on the dock of the water, but no, they had to separate the girls so that they didn't see each other get killed and freak out or whatever. So the girl doing yoga sees the killer coming and she turns to run, but she can't run because there's a cliff. So then she just stands there. She doesn't scream. She doesn't run. She doesn't try to fight. She just stands there for like a long time and then gets killed. That shit is annoying. Make her do something. Make her try and run, have the killer catch her, or just chop that scene up, edit it down to make it look like he got there really quick and she had nowhere to go or something. But no. We just kind of let her stand there for a while and go like, okay, I'm gonna die. And the killer's like, yeah, I'm gonna take my time. I'm gonna get over here and eventually I'll probably kill you. And I'll pull your head through your body. It'll be kind of cool. But everything leading up to it's gonna be fucking stupid. The locations throughout the forest, the cabin, that type of stuff was fine. What they were going for, trying to be unique from the killer's perspective and stuff, I liked. A couple of the kills I liked, but the vast majority of this movie was just bad. Then the end of the movie, we have a final girl. She's ran away. She's out on a road. Car's coming down. It ends up being a pickup truck. This woman picks her up. They take off down the road. Gonna take her to the hospital. And we get close to, because I'm telling you, I looked at my watch going like, how much longer do we got in this movie? Like 10 to 15 minutes conversation between, mostly the driver talking, but conversation between the driver and the final girl driving on the road. And that's where you're waiting. You're like, okay, is a killer in the back, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something? Is something bad gonna happen to the truck? Is the driver, is the lady that picked up the final girl, is she in cahoots with the bad guy? None of that stuff happened. And then they stop because the final girl who's in the passenger seat is kind of unresponsive. So the driver stops to get out because she sees her legs bleeding. So she goes around the passenger side, like belt her up, put like a tourniquet thing on her leg, right? And to like stop the bleeding. And so you're thinking, okay, the killer's going to come out of the forest and get him. And you got a shot of the forest. You're like waiting. The killer never comes. And then, we cut away from that to like random shots of the forest. Why? Fuck if I know. I don't know why. And then we see the girl left the locket around a gas can. And then we see the gas can without the locket. Okay, now fine. So we know the killer got his locket. And then we never see the killer again. We never see final girl again. We never see the woman that was driving the pickup truck again. It's just over. What the fuck happened? So I guess the killer's still out there, but is the killer happy because the killer has its locket? Did the killer go back to bed in the dirt under the leaves? Is the killer going to wait for more? They're going to make a sequel, and it's going to be stupid. I'm probably not going to watch. because it was not in a violent nature. It was in a boring nature, and I have really struggled getting through this. The expert Rotten Tomatoes had like an 80. The audience has it like a 40, and I'm with the audience. This is bad, and that's why, you know what, the 4 makes sense, because I think it was like 44 or something the audience had given it. Wet Movie 1 told me this was going to be bad. Somebody else told me it was going to be bad, but I'd heard a couple people say that it was okay. This was bad, and I get what they were going for. I really do. I get what they were trying to be unique, but they just failed at it. And then I think they were trying to be artsy fartsy at the end, and it just didn't work. But also, as a filmmaker, you say, okay, this film, I'm going to shoot it in this style. This film is from the perspective of the killer. So with that in mind, why did we leave the perspective of the killer once we got in the truck? And it would have only made sense if the killer was in the truck, or if the woman in the truck was in cahoots with the final girl. But she wasn't, and the killer wasn't in the truck. So therefore, we left the perspective of the killer and went to the perspective of, like, not even the final girl, but the perspective of the woman who picked up the final girl. So what were we doing? We had, like, you know, like, the style of filmmaking that they went for, they completely said, oh, fuck it, for the end of the movie, we're just going to do this instead. If they would have said, you know what, we're going to stick to it, and we're going to have maybe looking at this girl getting in this truck from the woods, seeing the killer watching it, and then down the road when they stop, when the woman gets out, goes around the passenger side to put the tourniquet on the leg, if the killer would have showed up behind and we would have seen that, like, okay, and then we wouldn't have got the conversation. We would have just seen the killer walking through the woods, coming up behind. Okay, there's the car again. Boom, let's go kill him. Didn't happen. If the killer was in the back and all of a sudden head popped up, would have worked. Ugh, what the fuck? Like, how can you change your style of filmmaking not even more than 3/4 of the way through the film? About 85% of the way through the film, you just flip the script on your style of filmmaking. It was not good. I'm frustrated. I'm disappointed. You know, I said, I want to see this movie because, you know, it's out in the theaters. It's new. It looks kind of different. It looks like it might be fun, like somebody going for an 80s slasher. We haven't had a great slasher, we haven't had a great Friday the 13th movie in forever. And I was like, maybe this will scratch the itch. So, no, it didn't. It did not. Man, it was frustrating, and I think that's about it. I don't want to sit here and ho and hum. It was frustrating. Man, don't waste your money on it. When it comes on Shudder, if you need to kind of experience it for yourself or see what I'm talking about, go ahead on Shudder. I think it was said like around June 28th or June 25th or something. It was going to be available on Shudder, somewhere around there. Might even be before, because there's no way in fuck this is going to last at the theater for more than one weekend, because this was just bad. So thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate you all. Hopefully you didn't spend your money on this, and hopefully you enjoyed me bitching about another movie. What are you going to do? 4 out of 10. It's bad. Don't go see it. Thanks for watching. Hit the thumbs up button. See you guys next time.